Welcome to the New Retirement Forum. My name is Andrew. I wanted to make a video about my own personal retirement journey. Excuse me if I get distracted from time to time. I'm in a public place and there could be people walking past me and some other distractions. But anyway, I wanted to share my own personal retirement journey with you. And this goes way back. A lot of times when you see articles and other literature, books, videos, etc. They talk about retirement, say 5 years before you actually decide to pull the trigger and retire. But actually, in my case, it started a long, long time ago. Uh, I'm going to say when I was less than 10 years old. And my parents, I used to overhear conversations about money and investing. They had some stock market investments, most of them not very good. They didn't turn out very well, but one or two good ones. And that got me interested in investing, the stock market, economics in general. And as soon as I was able to, I opened a brokerage account and started trading stocks. Now, that happened probably, you have to fast forward through high school and college. As soon as I got meaningful employment, I started to save money and started to invest. And I made some good investments and I made some awful ones. Um, but anyway, I remember in our house Friday nights at 8:30, we would sit around the TV and watch Wall Street Week with Louis Rukeyser. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember that. And it was a great show. It was they spoke in plain terms, and you were able to really get an understanding of stock market terms and specific companies to invest in, etc. But anyway, I started to invest money, whatever I could afford. Again, I wasn't making a lot of money in those days, so I would just invest what I could. I had a Charles Schwab account, and it was kind of like I don't want to say a business, but it was kind of like a side business for me, reading the financial statements and analyzing the stocks. In fact, later on, I became an accountant, a CPA, and I think a lot of it goes back to those days when I was reading uh, financial statements. So let's get more current. And the point I want to make here is that things don't always work out the way you think they will or the way you want them to. So in my own particular case, I was going to retire when I reached age 70. That's what I decided. I had a job that I liked. I was a teacher in a community college. I was not on the promotion track any longer. I reached the maximum promotions you could get, and I was just coasting, having a great time, working less than 20 hours a week, having Fridays off every week. Uh, I taught classes. I taught classes the last couple of years. I taught classes at 6 o'clock in the morning so that I would be finished by 10. So as the rest of the staff was just walking into work, I was walking out. It was great. I would go right from the job to the gym, and I would be finished by noon. And it was just great. But then something happened that none of us really planned for or anticipated. Pandemic. That hit in the 2020. January is when the first cases started to break out. By March, everything was shut down. Something I had never in my life anticipated. See, I was going to retire at age 70. I figured I would get the maximum Social Security payouts. I would have accrued more time in the pension system, and it would have been great. But the pandemic hit about 2 years before I was really thinking that I would retire. But to be honest, I had planned for retirement seriously, maybe the last 10 years before I retired. Because as soon as my children were grown and moved out, and I didn't have the expense of paying for college, etc., I maxed out all my retirement plans. I had a 403b plan and I had a 457 plan, and I maxed those out. So I did that for somewhere between 5 and 10 years before I actually was forced to retire. And then when the pandemic hit, the university approached everyone who was of retirement age, of which I was, and said, "We want you to leave. After all your years of service and hard work, we want you out. So we're going to try to make it worth your while. We're going to pay you for half of your accumulated sick leave," which in my case was the maximum number of days. I forget the exact number now, but it was about, I don't know, maybe it was almost a year's worth of sick leave. And we're going to give you a incentive based on how many years you've been here. And if you don't take it, we can't guarantee you're going to have a job. We can't guarantee that even if you have a job, your benefits will remain the same. They constantly threatened us with health care. See, I had a great plan. Didn't cost me anything. And it was for life. Now, this is the deal they made when I took the job. Right? So I guess they felt they made a bad deal and they were going to try to get everybody to pay for it. And to this day, even though I retired now 4 years ago, they still are threatening people with the health care. So anyway, I don't want to digress, and I don't want to badmouth the employer too much, right? But they did, you know, uh, make some idle threats. And I said, you know what? It's not worth it anymore. This pandemic is hit. At the time, they were scaring us to death. There was a period of time I thought we might all die. So I said, gee, wouldn't that be something? I die and they didn't have to pay me a penny out of my pension or other benefits. So I decided at that point to pull the trigger and retire. So this was in March of 2020. It would go into effect September 1st of 2020. Now, retirement can be a very complicated thing. There are lots of forms and paperwork to fill out and decisions that have to be made. And you would love to be able to sit down and talk across a desk from somebody and weigh these options. Fortunately, because of my training, my financial training, I understood a lot of this. Over the years, I had counseled people in making these kinds of decisions. So it was not really a big deal for me. I basically knew what I wanted to do. But I still had, I still had questions. And I'm not saying that people were deliberately trying to be uncooperative, but what I am saying, because everybody was shut up at home, it was hard to communicate with people. So basically what you had to do, for example, I had a point person at the school I taught in. Very nice person. She's still there. I still have some correspondence with her. But she was the point person. So anytime you had a question, anytime you needed to get something, you ran it by her and she pointed you in the right direction. That was a real big help. Now again, remember, she's at home too, like everybody else. So you had to be patient. You had to send emails. Sometimes you got an email back. Sometimes you got a phone call back. and you were able to get your questions answered or be directed to the right source. So there were people at the college I had to correspond with. There were people at the pension fund, which was, I was in New York at the time, part of the state university. So the pension people were in Albany. They weren't working either. They were all home. You had to make appointments to have phone conversations and so on. I mean, it all worked out, but it was anxious. Things didn't happen right away. Same with Social Security. Social Security, you had to call them, make an appointment for someone to call you back, right? And that was weeks later. So everything got done, everything worked out, um, but it wasn't like a smooth, easy-going transition. I continued to work part-time on and off for another almost 2 years. And I probably would have continued part-time longer because I was qualified to teach online. I didn't have to go into the school. Uh, but again, the college has a lot of unpleasant people working there, and they made it difficult. And I finally just got sick and tired of it because you never knew what was going to happen. It would be nice to plan things, and know I'm going to be teaching these days and these classes and so on. But they were always like that. They always just drop thing on you at the last minute, and there was always somebody there trying to gum up the works. So anyway, so I finally decided that was it. No more. By that time, I'd reached 70 and I was going to retire anyway. So I just didn't want to be bothered with it anymore. There are times I wish I still did have something to do, but that'll be the subject of another video. I have some ideas on that. Let's walk around now. So, so the retirement went into effect September 1st of 2020. That's when all the payments started, the pension, the Social Security, all the other stuff. And it's been fine since then. No problems. Now again, I talked before about planning all this stuff when you're young and you can't even envision retirement, but in the back of your mind, this is going to happen one day. So I positioned myself to take a job with a pension, with health insurance, so that I knew that these golden years wouldn't be tarnished with financial uh, problems. And that's the way it's been. And now I'm faced with another problem next year, is that's the year I turned 73, and I have to start taking mandatory distributions from the other retirement plans I had, which were basically my money, right? The IRAs, 401ks, etc. That's your money. So now I have to start taking that out. And, I mean, yeah, I'll take it out. But now I have another problem. I have to pay tax on that. So that's another issue in retirement that a lot of people don't envision, is taxes. And my taxes are going to be higher in retirement. They were already higher in retirement than when I was working. Because when you're working, you have more types of tax deductions. You also have things you can do to defer income, like the 401k, etc. So that's kind of a long-winded explanation of my retirement and We'll have more videos dealing with issues like this, but everything's worked out for me. And if you plan properly and you have some discipline, things should work out for you too. Now, I know not everybody is wealthy. I don't really consider myself wealthy, but compared to some people, I could be, and others I'm not at all. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what you can do with varying amounts of money, how you can make the most of it, what alternatives there are. It's not hopeless. It can be complicated, and you want to make sure you're dealing with good, honest people, which is another subject unto itself. But I hope you have a nice day. It's a nice, crisp fall day here in northern New Jersey, and I hope to be talking to you again soon.